Okay, welcome. This is a quick how to play Merchants of Infinity guide. The game is gorgeous. The components are utterly gorgeous. Let's get you started. You choose a colour. For example, green, gold, pinky purple, blue or black. You then take the relevant number of meeples, see the actual book for how many that you need. Done, sorted. What happens next? You then get a starting hand of the cogs cards. This is kind of the little mini game that you play at the beginning of each round to determine turn order. The numbers basically go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's some extra effects as well. Basically, it's almost like a little kind of pokerish hand. You're basically just choosing how many of your cards you play. You start off with 5 cards at the beginning of the game. Each turn you get 1 more for free, but you can buy more at the cost of 1 each, if you so choose. You then announce how many you're going to basically play. I'm going to play 3 this turn. And then basically, one at a time, you reveal your cards as you go around the table. Well, my first card's a 0. Okay, their first card's a 3. Well, my next card from my hand is remove a card. Get rid of your 3. Ha 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 ha. My last card was a 3. Their last card was a 2. My final score's 3. Their final score's 2. So I'm going first. Fantastic. Generally, it's very, very quick. It's supposed to be a little bit of fun. It's not supposed to be a massive drag on time. It's quick. It's just a different way of sorting this out rather than, for example, running an auction or just going clockwise. Right, done. You're sorted. You've got your meeples. Now, this is the bazaar. There are 10 different resources. For example, jewels, books, food, or that kind of thing. You can collect and remove up to 3 resources from the market each turn. So you can't just put your meeples out. It doesn't work that way. In turn order, you each put a person out. Now, at the beginning of the round, you will have set the market value. This is how much the goods are actually worth if you just sell them off each turn. So let's say, for example, I collected 2 books and a fuel, and I wanted to sell them off this turn. I would score 2 add 8, and I'd be an idiot because who would sell values for only 2? I'd be much better off this turn, for example, collecting navigation, which is worth 9, or for example, tech, which is worth 10. However, each of these values, so each of these spaces can only hold 3 places. So if one person basically just piles on fuel, for example, you can't put anybody else on fuel. Or can you? Well, you kind of can, because there's a space here called the auction. Now, once everybody's put the meeples out and you're resolving everything, you sort out the auction. The minimum amount you can bid is 1, but then anyone can bid more than that. The idea is this is kind of basically an extra crate of whatever resource you want. So if somebody basically maxes out the fuel, but you desperately needed the fuel, you can get fuel as long as you win the auction, for example. Let's imagine you and this friendly person come in. You went there first, so you go, well, I bid 1. Well, I bid 2. Well, I bid 3. Well, I bid 4. Well, you know that if you get the extra crate of things you need, it's only going to score you about 4 or 5 more points. So maybe on this occasion, let them have it and overpay and save your money. Or if you really desperately want it, if it's for a really valuable resource, you go, no, I bid 6, for example. Oh, well, fine, you have it, you pay 6. They pay nothing, you pay 6, and you basically get that extra resource. So it's like having a 4th space available. Okay. So you've got your 3 resources, la, la, and la. For example, you sell them off, all is well. That's one way of making points. But what else could you do? There are these ship orders, which you can collect by putting your meeple at the docks, or alternatively, there's 3 more over here. You could put a meeple there, and as many people as you want can go here, basically. So the idea is you choose a ship order that's got a good combination that you might want to score. You take it and you replace it from the pack straight away. So there's always 3 there available. Now, a really good thing to do is basically find one that you know, for example, is not going to be worth that much at the market. So say, for example, this turn, let's find clothes. Clothes are currently worth 6 on this turn. Next turn, clothes will be worth 4. Well, that's not very inspiring. However, next turn I could sell off 2 lots of clothes for 20 points. That would be a good idea. So these are basically a more tactical way of scoring points. And you can have at any one point 3 of these just stockpiled in your hand and basically use them whenever you feel like it. But of course, since you can only take out of the market 3 resources each turn, that kind of gives you an idea. Like this will basically give you all 3 resources scored. If you only used up 2 resources, for example, you could basically collect another one and just score it for points as of whatever. So you might basically get some tech, and then whatever was worth 10, for example, that turn. Oh, and I've got an animal and that's worth just a bonus 10 points. Done. The other thing you can do is go to the Vortex Bar. This is kind of like the casino-y, Mos Eisley type place where you can basically visit all sorts of shady people and pick up various side deals. What you have to do here is, again, you collect the little side mission and basically you replace it straight away with 1 from the pack. So again, there's always 3 there. Now let's look at this mission. A little bit of flavor text, not too important, but the important factor is if on a turn I can end up with a person on the Jewels district, for whatever reason, I can score 6 bonus points. Now, I don't have to use that person up to do this. Okay, that's a really important point. If I've got this bonus card, it just means, do you have a person there? Yes, it's like pass on a message, whisper in the ear. This is then used up, I get the points, fantastic, great, but this person can still be used for either a ship order or sold off at market. That's really important. They're bonus, they're extra, they don't use your people up. Okay, so you've got sell for the market value, all is well. Sell off for resources, sell off for ship orders, all is well. Score bonus points, all is well. If you wanted to try and get a combination and you mess up at the last second, someone takes the thing that you want and you can't do it, and you're left with basically a weird mix of resources that wouldn't be worth a great amount if you sold them at market, what can you do? Well, you can choose to basically visit the Steam Lab at the end of your turn instead. What you then decide to do is, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to combine the stuff that I've got and I'm going to just make some weird and wonderful steampunk contraption which I'll sell off to the nearest tourist. Oh, fantastic. Flame retardant trousers. Wonderful. So let's imagine that you collected on this turn, you collected some diamonds and some fuel and some animals for a weird combination of a card. And let's imagine someone beat you to it so you couldn't get it. Well, you're now stuck with 3 resources that are basically no good to you. Or are they? Well, the 2 and the 3 certainly are. The 10 is definitely, you sell the 10 for 10 points. But the 2 and 3 would only get you 5. So what you do then is you kind of go, well, I'm taking my 2 resources to the Steam Lab. And I'm risking 2 resources. You roll the dice. 2 times 5 is 10. Fantastic. Those 2 have basically scored me 10 points. And my original animals there have scored me 10 points. So I've got 20. Fantastic. The idea basically is every single turn you're scoring points. What else? Well, this is the school of thought. It's basically an extra meeple. If you go here, you take the meeple to add to your collection. You've now got an extra meeple who goes right at the end of everybody else. This doesn't seem to make sense on your first turn because it's like, well, I've gone earlier on. Why would I want to basically just go last instead? The good thing is you keep this meeple for the rest of the game, unless somebody else goes there, in which case they take them, etc., and the game goes on. So it's good with having an extra meeple, but there's only 1 available. So think about when you want it. Early in the game is definitely better than later in the game. What else? These are the station spaces. The station spaces are action spaces. You can put 1 person on each place. You can't double up here very easily. So let's go through. This just gets you money. This means that as soon as you basically fulfill a ship order or a bonus card, you can draw another one immediately without having to basically visit that space all over again with a meeple. This is gambling. You basically take some of your money, you can basically bet up to 10, and you put it behind your back. You then kind of move your hands around and then you put both fists out to another player who basically gets to choose one of the fists. If they choose the fist with the money in, oh dear, you've lost the money. If they choose the empty hand, you double the money. So if I've bet 7 and I basically, oh, fantastic, I've outsmarted you, I get another 7 and I get my original 7 back. Lovely, lovely, all is well. This basically means that if you're into the Steam Lab, you can add 4 to your dice roll. This means basically you draw 3 cards of either the ship order pack or the Vortex pack, keep 1 and discard the other 2. A Vortex card, 1 Vortex card, not all of your Vortex cards, pays twice the amount, which can be really good if it's of 10 value, because all of a sudden that's worth 20. This basically means that if you're selling your goods off at the market, they're worth an extra 2 each, which is great. So if you were selling off navigation, it wouldn't be worth 7 each. For you, it will be worth 9. For everyone else, it will still be worth 7. You can choose what value the market goes next turn on there, which means that basically if you're trying to collect something very important to you, like tech, you can make sure it's worth 1, because you basically need loads of tech for your card, which means that nobody will compete on you for it. Get a handful of extra cogs cards, which is great, helping you get turn order. A ship order, one of these, just pays an extra 5. They're really, really great. I'm going to use a mixture of those each turn. There are optional Nova spaces. This is kind of PvP, mess with other play spaces. You can steal a card from somebody else at random. You roll the dice and that player gets robbed for D10 of their money. Instead of basically 3 people for each resource base, you can only have 2 people. You wait till somebody scored all their money at the end of the turn. You steal a fifth of their profits, rounding up. You can ignore the fractal mirror, whatever your random event is for that turn. Someone else's values are less rather than more. So instead of 7, that person's values would be worth 5, for example. You can basically try to outbid someone from a space that you want. So, well, you're on the last food and drink space, but I want to go there. So I'll pay you 1 to move. Well, no, I'll pay 2 to stay. No, I'll pay you 3 to move. I'll pay 4 to stay. I'll pay you 5 to move. All right, give me 5. Okay. So that person then can go off and just move to somewhere else available, and you put your person on there instead. Last one is to reuse a space and stays. This means you can double up on one of these. So for example, ship orders don't pay +5, they pay +10. A Vortex card isn't doubled, it's quadrupled. Very nice. That's about it. Other than that, there's the Fractal Mirror cards, which basically mean that every single turn you draw a new random event. For example, all the cog scores are doubled. This world has no jewels, so you would put the unavailable token over the jewels here, which means that basically on this turn nobody will be able to do any jewel effects, unless of course you've gone here. This changes each turn, and it just means a little bit of a random element, means things are different. That's about everything. In terms of how you win the game, you win basically by getting the right combination of different things each turn. So you don't just go for one thing like market. You don't just go for example, the traders. You do some of those that are worth really good points. And also you also happen to have scored one of these this turn. And also you've also doubled it up. And also you got some extra money. You get the idea. You will get used to this over 2-3 turns. You'll find combinations that work for you. There's a load of good strategy in here. You can play a simple game, and you can have a simple game, it's great, but those who play a more complicated game will usually be able to find the more loopholes, the more better sort of like combinations that work really, really well. To give you an idea, on an average turn, if you score a total of 20 points, you're doing something wrong. 30 points, you're doing well. 40 points, you're doing brilliantly. 50 points or more, wow, you're doing amazingly this turn. So you should be trying to ideally average about 30 points or more each turn, to give you a general idea. At the end of the game, you can basically count up your points, and whoever gets the most points wins. A couple of points about the board. When you basically determine the turn order, your last meeple, you just put on this to show the turn order throughout the game, and then you basically play your extra meeples, and then you basically place your last meeple off last, and then when everybody's gone, you know the turn's over. In terms of how many turns you play, if you're playing for 2 players, you have 6 turns. If you're playing for 2 players, you have 6 turns. If you play 3 players, you could play 6 turns. If you're playing for 4 players, 3 or 4 players, 5 turns. Really, if you're playing for 4, 5 or 6 players, 4 turns is a short game, but it'll give you a feel of it really. A longer game with like 6 turns with 5 players will take a very, very long time. So you just think about what's going to be the best combination of games for you. You can always play fewer meeples, you can always play fewer turns, just to get a feel of it. That's about it. I hope you enjoy it. Any more questions, please email me. You can reach me at gmfirst@rogueartistcreations.com, or you can find me on Facebook and message me. Thank you.